Hi ladies, welcome back. I'm really excited to talk about this week's video. It's all about heartbreak and healing from heartbreak, especially in your feminine energy. I've been through so many relationships and I know how it feels to kind of be in that heart-wrenching state of losing someone, whether it be a relationship or a friendship, a family member that you no longer talk to. Heartbreak can come in just so many forms, and I wanted to talk about it today. I'm not in my usual space. I don't know, I felt really called to go outside. I did not want to film in my room today. I was like, you know what? Let me sit outside. It's a beautiful day and let's get this started. Recently, me and one of my friends, we were talking about the stages of grief. And that kind of put me in this perspective of that's exactly what heartbreak is. When you're grieving something, and people compare it a lot to, it's basically like you're grieving almost a death, but that person is still there. So it's so easy to go back and try to make amends with this person or gain closure and things like that. And I feel like in the 5 stages of grief offers a lot of self-reflection, and it allows you to really sit in your emotions and process heartbreak. And I feel like that's such a key part of being in your feminine energy. It's all about understanding what you're feeling. It's about resting in your body and allowing yourself to move slowly through this process instead of being in your head and trying to rush out of feeling down. So the 5 stages of grief: 1 is denial, 2 is the feeling of anger, 3 is bargaining, 4 is depression, and 5 would be acceptance. A lot of times for me, when it came specifically towards heartbreak and leaving a relationship, the denial stage was all about not wanting to let go. You're kind of in denial about that this person is leaving, or that you have to leave this person, or the breakup, whatever it may be, and you kind of start thinking to yourself that this isn't the last you're gonna have them. This isn't the last you're gonna see them. Like, you know, things can get better in the future. You start to try to believe or trick yourself into thinking that you can fix whatever this is and you can make it work, despite how many times in the past you tried fixing it and tried making it work. You still hold on to that hope, still want to hold on to that belief, and you're in denial about the reality of the situation of you are no longer in this person's life. Whether they chose it or you did, you can still have denial. You can still think, oh, even though I broke up with them, you know, we'll just work on ourselves and we'll get back together. That every single breakup has always been that way for me. You just don't want to, you want to hold on to it. You don't want it to be the end yet. But a lot of the times with denial, you're operating more from your headspace, which is the masculine. When we're in our feminine energy, we're operating from our body, a lot more from our intuition. We're paying attention to how this person makes us feel, instead of how we want to progress, how we want to change it, how we want to fix the relationship itself. And a lot of the times when you're in denial and you're operating from that masculine, from that headspace, you can wind up chasing something, by the way, that no longer is yours, that no longer belongs to you. Don't ever let someone tell you they don't want you more than once. Or don't go chasing after someone when you told them multiple times, I'm gonna leave you if you do this, I'm gonna leave you, and you say it over and over and over again because it starts to no longer hold its weight. And then you do leave them and they're just gonna expect you to come back again. When you operate from your masculine and from your headspace, you're going to fight for a relationship that no longer serves you, or fight for a person that no longer wants you, or that you know is bad for you. And you're also hyper fixating on the future, which is also what kind of causes anxiety more than anything. When you're constantly thinking about the future, when right now you need to think about yourself, and you need to think about and sit in your feelings of how you're feeling in the present moment. Being in the present is all about feminine energy. You need to be in the present and think of, okay, I'm feeling like this and I need to get through it in this way. All you actually need to do to start the grieving process in in the ending of a relationship is to sit down with your emotions and let yourself just feel it. The best way to break out of denial, especially in this day and age, in this generation when we have phones, you have to convince yourself that they just no longer exist. Don't say that everything that happened doesn't exist, because that'll just lead you to not want to hone in and reflect on what happened, but pretend like that person just moved far, far away. They moved far, far away. You're never gonna see them again, and there's no point in constantly overthinking and thinking about the what ifs. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care if you're on day 2 or 3 of crying over this, but the best thing to do now with our phones, delete all the pictures, block them on social media, delete anything that could remind you of them, or that you can look back at the memories with them. because all you're doing is basically putting your finger in the bullet wound. I think that's the phrase. Like, you have a bullet wound and you're constantly poking at it, and that's your heartache. When you look at all the past pictures from your relationship while you're grieving and your heart is broken, it's kind of like you're self-harming yourself all over again, and you're reliving those memories in your head, but then you're gonna relive the heartbreak that you endured and the fact that person is no longer with you. We're going on to 2 in the grieving process: anger. So you have anger from your heartbreak, you have anger for the person, for you, for the relationship. You're just angry. You no longer want to be sad, and that sadness will turn into anger. It'll turn into resentment or jealousy. It can turn into frustration, and those are all really low frequency feelings and emotions that you're feeling, which is totally normal. Everyone will feel those. You can't avoid it. So instead of being in denial, which is being in your headspace, you're finally tapping back into your body, and you're allowing yourself to feel and be in the present moment, feel what you're feeling, and you have to figure out a way to release it. But releasing it doesn't mean to act impulsively and randomly message them, or the need to get violent or yell or be triggered around all the other things around you. You have to be responsible in the way that you handle that anger. And the best way to handle that anger is you soon start to build yourself up, and you realize your value and your self-worth, and you start to come to the realization that this relationship did not serve you. This is your moment to really build yourself up and become more secure in who you are and what you have to offer. It's not to download bunches of dating apps, because I would always do that because I needed that validation again. I needed to know that other people out there in the world would want me or thought it was cute. But all you're gonna do is attract people who are looking for the exact same validation that you are. That validation needs to come from inside you. Don't go and lay under someone else, because then you're actively acting out of insecurity because you feel like you are nothing without someone telling you that you're something. When you are in the second stage of grief, anger, the best thing to do is to go to people to talk about it and vent about it. It can be friends, it can be family. You can just write in a journal. You just have to get it out, because anger and resentment, jealousy and frustration, that's an energy, and if you keep that bottled up, it's going to have nowhere to go, and it's going to rest inside you, and you're going to hold on to it way longer than you know, and the trauma in the relationship is not going to heal. And that's why it's also important to not jump into a relationship right after heartbreak, because you're going to have all that trauma stored inside you. Then the next person that comes around is going to have to deal with it. You're not going to know how to handle certain things, and you're going to hold on to resentment that you totally forgot was there. Find anyone that can validate and can understand what you're feeling and what you're going through, someone that can talk you through it. Even if you have to get coaching or you have to get therapy, there's outlets out there for you to release that anger. Manifest, meditate, pray, whatever you need to do, you have to let it go. The next is going to be 3rd, and the 3rd step is bargaining. When your denial and your emotions and all those heavy feelings kind of subside, the feelings where you're overthinking most of the time, you are going to think of the should-haves, the could-haves, the would-haves, the what if I did this differently. And sometimes this is linked to, I wish I would have left earlier, or I wish I didn't let them get away with this, or I wish I built stronger boundaries. You bargain with yourself in a way because you're trying to validate your experiences in an unhealthy way. You're telling yourself all the ways it could have worked, and a lot of the times you excuse your partner's past behavior. You're trying to bargain almost with their reasoning of why things didn't work out. You want to get to a place of kind of understanding what happened and why you and your partner broke up, and what could have been done, or how you could have done things differently to save it or to fix it. Bargaining is kind of where you start to analyze and logicalize the whole breakup. You need everything to have a reason. You need everything to have a reason behind why this happened, and you gotta link everything together when this is not the time for that. Like, you're still kind of grieving and in an emotional place, and you're still kind of trying to understand what happened. And with reasoning and overthinking again and overanalyzing how you could have fixed things in your past, and constantly wondering about your past, which this links into 4, depression. You're back rooted in your masculine energy because you're thinking again. You're overthinking about everything that could have been done differently, how things could have ended better if it had to end. Best way to release yourself from bargaining and slowly get out of that state is by telling yourself that everything happens for a reason, and that person are not meant to be in your life for a reason. That relationship isn't meant to be with you for a reason, and it's your time to find the lesson into why that happened. It's time for you to start to reflect on how you can grow from the situation or the breakup, and how you can learn from it instead of hyperfixate on all the things that you could have done differently. Because that's the past. You can't do anything differently. You can't go and fix it. It is what it is. And now it's your turn to sit with it, reflect on it, and think of how you can grow past it. We move on to number 4, which I had just mentioned, is depression. When you self-reflect enough and you learn what the lesson was, a lot of the times you can become a bit depressed over everything that happened. You had this height of emotions that you were feeling, and then you're kind of taking the time to self-reflect, and you are finally acknowledging how this situation changed you as a person. It changed your life and altered your life in a different way. And you sink in and you start to realize you can never go back. You can't change what was done. You can't tell your past self, hey, this is me from the future, don't do this, or don't follow that, or listen to him, listen to her. You can't go back in time and change anything. A lot of the times when we're in the stage 4 of grief, and there's depression, and there's sadness, and there's self-loathing, there's a lot of guilt and shame. And I have a whole video about guilt and shame, the differences between them, how you can overcome it, and how they stem, and what they stem from. And I'll put the link up here, and it'll also be in my bio as well for you guys to check out. And with guilt and shame, it can cause us to feel extremely isolated, because after self-reflection, you realize all the kind of specifics that went into this heartbreak and this relationship that you were in, and you start to feel like you're alone in it. You start to feel like my relationship or my breakup was so specific and so unique, no one will understand me. No one is going to understand what I'm going through. No one can feel what I feel. But that's not true. You need to finally come to a place of self-compassion and understanding for yourself. And I still struggle with this too. When I look back at my past, I have to tell myself, I did not know what I know now then. And you have to kind of give yourself that grace and remember that what you went through then has transformed you into a totally better and healthier, stronger person. When you're in that deep feeling of depression, you can kind of heal in the similar way to when you're feeling anger. You can find people to talk to. Even though no one can be in as on point and specific in a situation as you are, that you went through, that doesn't mean that people aren't there to help you and to want to give you outside perspective on how to get through it. And this is also the best time to, again, you're giving yourself that self-compassion, so it's the best time for you to take up hobbies, learn new things about yourself. You're already grown as a person, you're growing as a person and reflecting on what happened. This is the time to try new things, go to new places, and be comfort in solitude and being alone. You're never lonely. There's loneliness and there's being alone. You can be alone, but you should never feel lonely anymore. So after all the first 4 stages, you're at stage number 5, acceptance. And this is the stage where you kind of come to terms with everything. You've reflected a lot. All the emotions of anger or resentment, the denial, the what ifs, the should have, could have, the depression, the resentment, frustration, that all has kind of silenced. It's not as loud anymore in your head or in your body. You can kind of just finally rest. And resting is being ultimately in your feminine energy. You rest in the present and you enjoy the present. You're not constantly thinking about the future of what's going to happen next, who's going to be there, and you're not thinking about the past of what you could have done. You're not thinking about why they did XYZ to you. You come to acceptance that those things happen and I learned from them, and all I can do now is focus on what's in front of me, and the future will lay itself out from the tools that I'm given. The 5 stages of grief are simply laid out so you understand the pattern of healing, because this can truly happen with anything, but I think for heartbreak it is the most helpful, and it makes it a lot easier, because a lot of times we don't know how to navigate heartbreak. I remember my first heartbreak, I felt like a shell of a person. I felt like I had no heart. I felt like I had no soul. I would lay in bed for days. I would go outside feeling like a walking zombie. It was like I had nothing anymore. I was 19 at the time, and at that age, like that teenage love, like you just feel like this is everything and it's your whole life. And it was more of a mutual breakup too, so I feel like that made it even harder when it's mutual. And it's like you could potentially find things in the future, and I kept banking on that. I was really convinced, like, after a few months, we'll come back to each other, but he moved on a lot quicker. And that heartbreak just it felt like it was almost debilitating in a way. I felt like I was never going to recover. I remember telling my family I'm never going to love again, And that is just always farther from the truth. Each heartbreak just makes you stronger, and it helps you understand the standards and the boundaries you want to build with yourself for your future partner and who you want to be with. And that's what being in your feminine energy is all about. It's about healing. It's about building boundaries and having standards for yourself and for those around you. It's all about connection and emotion and healing one another and sisterhood as well, community. That's all what feminine energy is. And from the 5 stages of grief and getting to acceptance, you can finally understand and start to learn forgiveness. And forgiveness can sometimes be the longest one of all. It can be the longest thing, but you work through it and you soon start to realize that sometimes within time, the wounds don't hurt as much anymore. The scars can still be there, but you can look back on it and acknowledge what you went through and know that it turned you into a stronger, healthier, more self-aware type of being. Okay, ladies, that's it for this video today. I really hope this helps someone out there who's going through a breakup, because I remember when I was a teenager and I was going through breakups in my early 20s, and I was searching for all these videos online trying to tell me what to do, how to get through it, things like that. And I hope that this is just the most type of easiest way to digest it and understand it, with just 5 steps. And it's a video that you can continuously look back on and rewatch and say, okay, I'm at this step right now, I'm at that step right now. And there's no time limit for any of these steps. You just get through it and you go with the motions. So I will see you ladies next week. Bye.